All right, senior high, we are back with another Bible study video. And the reason that we do Bible studies this way in Kirk students is because we want you to graduate high school knowing how to feed yourself. So today what I'm going to do is I want to show you the simple skill of observation questions. And I want to start here equipping you further with this skill because when you do Bible study, that's the first thing you want to do is you want to observe it, then you want to interpret it, and then you want to apply it. We don't want to mix that order up. First, we want to see what the text says before we start to draw any conclusions about it. So I'm going to show you just a couple ways to do that today from this passage that we studied last time in Acts chapter 8, verses 1 through 8. And an observation question, really all that is asking stuff like who, what, when, where, why, and how. Okay, the 5 W's and an H. Those are the questions that dominate the observation part. You ask who, what, where, when, why, how about everything you see. And I'm going to show you real quick how to do that. So in this passage, there's really 3 primary observation questions that we can ask about the whole thing. Now that you could do more, that's just nuance, but for the sake of this video, I just want to show you 3, and I'm going to show them like this. Who is going to be highlighted in yellow? What is going to be highlighted in pink? And where is going to be highlighted in blue? Okay, so this is going to help you track along with what we're going to do here. So when you're looking for who, anytime you see a proper name or a personal pronoun, those are whos. It doesn't always have to be a proper name. So let me show you, first of all, Saul. You want to highlight Saul. Saul is a who. Okay, but then in the very same sentence, Saul approved of their killing him. Him is a who. So when you see that, you want to highlight it and note it so it'll help you in your study as you observe. So as we continue, the next time that we see a who is when we come to the church. Then next it says all except the apostles, that's who, were scattered throughout Judea, Samaria. Godly men, that's a who. Buried Stephen, that's a who, obviously, and mourned deeply for him. Okay, so you can really highlight a lot of these people's names and pronouns and all of this stuff that gives you clues about who the text is about. And if we were to highlight every single instance of a who, this is what that would look like. So as you can see, there are a lot of answers to the who question just in this passage. And you could look at each one of these and connect what is the him talking about, what is the he talking about, who are the many, who are they all, who is the... There's so much you could do with this, but I want to simplify it down just to a couple main points. So for the purpose of this first video, I just want to show you a couple things here. One of the ways I started out in my notes was I saw on that day. That day is not clear in this text, so you have to ask what day is that day. You could also say when, it's a time phrase, but on that day, what day was that? When you look back at the previous chapter, it's about Stephen's stoning. But then another what question that comes up is what happened? A great persecution broke out. That's what happened. And then when you start to ask the question who, it says all except the apostles were scattered, and then you answer the where question throughout Judea and Samaria. Okay, so you see how those go together just in this one section. You start to answer these who, what, where. You could also answer when, why, how. All of that stuff can happen here. But when you start to ask these questions, you observe the text, and then that way, as you study, you can see, okay, all except the apostles, who is that talking about? Well, it's talking about the church. So there are other believers that are being written about here that scattered throughout Judea and Samaria on the exact same day that persecution broke out because of Stephen being stoned. Okay, so that gives you a big context, a big framework for what happens next in this passage. And what I mean by that is if we skip down to verse 4, this same pattern of 3 observation questions shows up again. The who we see is that those who had been scattered, what did they do? They preached wherever they went. Okay, so you see that we got who, what, where again, and this gives us more that we can start to interpret as and start to apply after we observe it. So now that we know who it's talking about, those who had been scattered, which are members of the church that are also not the apostles. What they did, those who had been scattered, what they did was they preached. Okay, not the apostles. The apostles stayed in Jerusalem. They're still doing that. But those who had been scattered, the disciples, the church members, the regular folk, they preached the word wherever they went. And where did they go? They went throughout Judea and throughout Samaria. Now, what's cool about this is just observation. We haven't interpreted anything. We haven't applied anything. We're simply asking who, what, where, when, why, how. We're just looking at the text to build a framework which we can then start to study within. Because when you observe well, you can interpret well. And when you interpret well, you can apply well. That's the reason we do it. That's the reason we do it in this order. That's the reason we do it this way, is because we want to treat the text like this every chance we get so that we don't draw conclusions that Scripture has no intention of making. Really appreciate you guys. Really love you guys. I hope this video helps you out and that it helps you understand what observation looks like a little bit better. And we'll keep doing these more and more. But I just wanted to throw this out there to further equip you, to give you more skills in your toolkit so that you, when you graduate, you will know how to feed yourself. Love you guys. God bless.